this is as real as it gets.
Hey, this is Marcia Prince, IFBB Bikini Pro and Guest Berry Nutrition spokesmodel, and you are listening to the UCW radio show, In Your Face.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
You're listening to UCW Radio.
In your face.
Give it to me, baby.
All right, welcome to the UCW Radio Show, the show where we feature everything from celebrities and recording artists to authors and fitness stars. Basically, we feature some pretty inspirational people, and we also take the time to feature some up-and-comers that you should be on the lookout for. Now, before we bring on our next guest, I want to remind our listeners to make sure to catch the latest segment of Money Never Sleeps. This is a show where we are talking about everything and whatever makes the money flow. From coast to coast and continent to continent, this is a global show, and it airs every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter for the latest updates or random rants and maybe something inspirational from time to time. And definitely make sure to show your support for the great people that we have on the UCW radio show. Now, with that said, let's bring on the very talented New York artist who is causing a stir around the world with his work. I want you to get a pen. Write this down. His name is Borbay. So without further ado, let's bring on Borbay. All right, Borbay, how are you? How's it going?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, thanks for coming on the show. I'm excited. I love your work. I love the stuff that you're doing. You know, it's really, really different.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
All right, well, let's kind of like start at the beginning, and so that the listeners out there can get a better idea of who you are, because they see the end result. You know, I'm all about the journey and how you got to this point. So I guess let's start at the beginning. You know, how did you get involved in art?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's obviously a great question. I started getting into art when I was about 2.5 years old, and my mom was an artist, and she was painting a wooden bunny, and I asked if I could have one, and she gave me one, and I started painting, and I fell in love with it right there. You know, essentially it took me until I was 29 to do it as a profession. Mm-hmm. But you know, over the years, I always had art as an undertone in my life, and I kept sketchbooks, and I used to make crates of them at my parents' house. And I grew up on Long Island. I went to college at Boston University. I studied art history, advertising, graphic design. When I finished college, I had a very strange career path. I started out, I was working as an assistant designer at a newspaper. I ended up on a very low-budget, strange reality TV show, moved to New York, and did stand-up comedy for a year. From there, I moved on and spent almost 2 years working at the Trump Organization in real estate development deals for big projects. And I found myself in Hawaii on a vacation with my now wife, and I was painting on the beach, and I realized that, you know, my initial goal of waiting until I was a millionaire at 40 to quit wasn't going to work, so I gave my notice, and at 29, I went full-time art. And
you know what I have to say to that? Holy crap! I thought my journey was interesting. Holy cow! You know, so you you went along all these different lines, which is really interesting. I mean, how do you go from you know, I mean, working for the Trump Organization and working in real estate, and I mean that's high end real estate. That's luxury stuff. Doing that,
absolutely.
And then you get into art, you know, and then you have all these different career paths, you know. I mean, advertising, that I can understand. Everything else, I guess you were trying to find yourself.
Absolutely. You know, I was trying to find myself, but I was also trying to find myself as a person and as someone who is independent. You know, I mean, I have 2 younger brothers, and I didn't want to be a 20-something who was, you know, relying on my parents. And quite frankly, if I tried to become an artist at 23, I would have wasted the opportunity. I didn't have the business savvy. I didn't understand contracts and negotiations, and all the other experience that I was able to gain along the way was just a combination of saying yes to strange opportunities, working hard, and absorbing everything. So, you know, without working at the Trump organization, I wouldn't have the savvy that I have now for marketing and business. So I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity I had there.
Well, I love that you said that, because a lot of people, they see the end result, and you and I were talking about it off air. They see the end result, they see the end product. But to me, what's more interesting is the journey, because if you don't enjoying that journey along the way, it would be impossible, because as you're going, character is built.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And in fact, just being open to that journey, it opened my eyes to a lot of things. And, when I became an artist, I had a falling out with a friend from high school who he stole a portfolio of mine that was graphic design portfolio, shopped it around town, ended up getting an internship at MTV with it, and I went through a bit of a dark period where I was very afraid to share anything creative because I felt like it would get stolen. But then when I decided to paint, I went in the exact opposite direction and said, I'm going to put the blueprints out there. So, for you and for anyone who's seen my work and my website, I mean, I literally post photos start to finish from blank canvas to final product. And I also include a time-lapse video because, like you said, and I couldn't be more in agreement, that the journey is just as important, if not more important than the result. And, looking back on what I do, I'm so thankful that I have something worth recording every day.
But I think the work you do, actually, I know the work you do is fantastic. All right. And, and you touched on, people taking your creative work, I mean, whether it's art, anything creative, whether it's tech, you always have to worry about that stuff. And that's the thing that, to me, that kind of kills creativity, is when you have to hold back. Like recently, Tesla, what Elon Musk did, he allowed his stuff to go out there.
Absolutely. That open model is, I mean, that was a beautiful and inspiring move, and I think in the long run, it's a prudent business move as well.
Yeah. Well, it's more people will be, more companies will be creating those electronic gas stations, those electric gas stations. I mean, that'll offset the expenses for him. But going back to you, when that happened to you, and your creative work was taken, the portfolio was taken by the person that will remain nameless, because I'm sure they're still nameless, when that happened, you kind of had your guard up all around.
Oh, absolutely. It's a violation. Of course, it was a double violation to me because it was someone that I trusted. Mm-hmm. But if you don't put your heart out there and get it broken a few times, you're never going to find true love. And I mean, romantically, I'm so fortunate to have found that with my wife, and artistically, I found that through some tough journeys. And if I could go back and do it again, I'd have my heart broken all over again because it made me who I am today.
And that's the key thing, because when these experiences, as I said earlier, they're character building. They're adversity will either break you or it's going to build you. Our listeners are going to find out more about this journey because it's pretty amazing.
It's been a trip, and I think I can relate to you in many ways, especially with the athletic angle. I mean, I ran track and cross country also in college, and I found myself with humongous dreams, and I had these aspirations to be this athlete that, quite frankly, I never achieved the level of success I wanted. And it was this constant cycle of, you're running 100 miles a week and you're training and you're dreaming and you're hoping, and the day before the race, you catch a cold or you just have an off day, or, you strain your hamstring and 6 months of work is down the drain. But, for the successes you get, you learn to appreciate them. And I think those are really important life lessons as well.
Yeah. I mean, everything that you go through is a building process for you as an individual, and for you, you're fortunate because you have a creative, outlet where a lot of people don't know how to let that stuff out. And you just did it, and now you're creating this magic, which, got you on the cover of books.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. And what was it? The 5th anniversary, I believe it was, of Michael Jackson passing away. And, who was it? Zach O'Malley, right? He wrote
Zach
a book.
O'Malley Greenberg, that's right.
Right. He wrote a book, and your work was on the cover of it.
That's correct.
How did that come about?
Well, that it's a classic story. It's just pure hustle and good fortune. Back in 2011, I worked on a series of hip hop artists. So I did 7 portraits, and I picked the subjects based on the criteria that they were entrepreneurial, involved in social media, and were scheduled to release an album within a year. So I just finished the series. My 7th of the series was Lil Wayne. Literally the next day, I look on Twitter and I see, and I called it the Kings of Hip Hop series. Mm-hmm. And the next day, I see someone from Forbes wrote an article called The Cash Kings of Hip Hop, and based on my criteria and a little bit of luck, I had predicted 1 through 4, and the 3 other subjects were tied for 6. And I just thought to myself that this was too clandestine. So I called into the general line at Forbes, and I asked for Zach O'Malley Greenberg, and, he took my call, which was awesome. And I asked him if he had 5 minutes, and I told him about the series, and he said, okay, I'd love to see it. So he came out, he looked at the show, he ended up writing about it online for Forbes. And we became fast friends. And, writers and artists historically can get along pretty well because we're both creating, but something different, so there's no level of competition there. And he told me he had just finished his Empire State of Mind book about Jay-Z's business, and it was doing really well. And he was working on Michael Jackson Inc. And I just said, hey, you know someone who would do a bang-up cover for you. And he kept it in mind. And 2 years later, he pitched me to Simon Schuster, and they said, let's go. I was commissioned, and now I'm on the cover.
Wow, that's if you never picked up that phone to just roll the dice and say, hey, by the way, you never would have got to that point.
And that's one of those things where, having an interpersonal connection is just fantastic. I mean, we got linked up on Twitter, and that's great, and you kind of see each other 140 characters at a time throughout the day, but being able to get on the phone and really get to know one another, it makes a humongous difference, and for personal relationships and business alike.
Mm-hmm. It definitely does, because, sometimes social media can be very antisocial. And,
I would say that's accurate.
Yeah, and as ironic as it is, I mean, this is the way it is, because people, they can become introverted, in real life, but extroverts online because it's safe, but it's good to have those personal connections. And that's why when I heard about your story and what you were doing, when I first saw your work, I said, this is crazy. This is like some amazing work, and it's just different. And at first, what I thought of was Andy Warhol a little bit. Andy Warhol-like, but not. Okay? And then, and as I'm going through stuff, you kind of did something to one of, an Andy Warhol type of, work. You did something to one of the things.
I did. Well, look, I think that any artist who works in square formats in colorful portraits and says that they owe nothing to Warhol is completely insane. I mean, look, the predecessors that have been there before me, they paved the trail. I mean, doing these portraits, I use square formats because Warhol did, and he was amazingly successful, and he was a pioneer, and he had amazing color sense, and his business savvy was tremendous. I mean, he was getting commissions left, right, and center. He was connected throughout the art world. So, yeah, I mean, I literally went to a thrift store and found a reproduction of one of his Marylands. So I brought it to the studio, and I collaged over a part of the face and repainted it in. And, yeah, I mean, that's downright, and it's not even reappropriation. That's just downright modification and theft. But, I think if anyone would have appreciated, Mr. Warhol would have.
And that's the thing. When you're talking about creative people, when it comes to art, when someone that is a great artist, a great creator, and they do something, and they see someone coming up actually taking their work and trying to take it to another level, that there's an appreciation that's there.
Yes, 100%. And, there's the art world, I mean, if you think about it, it's sort of like a miracle of an invention, because it seems like everything in the world already exists. Like, how is their bandwidth? How is their creativity still around to create something that's new? I mean, if you just look at all the components that go into a Boeing airplane, the fact that someone invented each and every one of those, like, what I imagine million parts, put them all together and created this airplane, and they're always modifying it. It's the same with art. I mean, people have been painting forever. I mean, there's thousands of years of painting. And, you know, when you look at someone who creates something even slightly innovative, it's a matter of how far do you push it to try to create something that's really, truly your own voice.
And you know, they say life imitates art, and I believe that when, you know, in art, you're never done. And that's why some people that are really, you know, going to say eccentric artists, sometimes they go woo woo, they get a little batty, but you're never ever done. Like you may right now you're doing this type of work, but you're not done. Because you don't know what's going to happen in the next year or two, or where your mind's going to go, is something that will inspire you to actually take that extra step to do something even greater.
Absolutely, and that right there is the crux of why I love it so much. I don't know where I'll be and what I'll be creating in 2 years or 10 years, and you know, there's these beautiful photos of Matisse. He's literally in a hospice. You know, and he's got a stick and he's drawing on the wall. I mean, you have one of the greatest artists of all time, and it's like to the day of his death he was creating, and that is, you know, where I see myself going, and it's because it's a journey that's never going to end, and it's a race against the clock. And you know, with Picasso, he was trying to recreate all the great work. So literally every voice in history had been through the Picasso filter. So, I mean, I don't know where it's going, but I know that it's something that I'll never finish in my lifetime.
No, you're never going to finish without any doubt in my mind. But what we're going to do, Borbay, we're going to take a quick break, because we got to take a little break, and we're going to be right back, and we're going to continue this conversation about Matisse, Picasso, and all the great things that are coming out of Borbay. So, listeners, stick with us. We're gonna be right back.
I'm burning up, my heart's afflicted. I miss your touch, God, you're so addicted. Won't you put me out of my misery? I need a fix. You're my favorite drug. Can you take me high? One hit ain't enough, so light me up like a spark. Want it all tonight. I need your love. Got me going crazy. Won't you save me? Show me your love. Show me your love. Show me your love. Your love. In the night, it gets louder. Losing my mind. Can't fight the power. Something deep inside my soul draws me to you. Yeah, you got my heart racing, anticipating, but you ain't got a clue. And I can't take it, suffocating. My body yearns for you. You're my favorite drug. Can you take me high? One hit ain't enough, so light me up like a spark. Want it all tonight. I need your love. Got me going crazy. Won't you save me? Show me your love. Show me your love. Show me your love. Your love.
I'm so addicted, you can't resist it. And when I'm gone, I know you miss this. I give you all of it, cause I know exactly what you wanna get. You want that love, baby. No ifs, no buts, or maybes. You want it guaranteed, and I promise I'll never leave. DJ, you gotta play this. Got my girl intoxicated, elevated, highly rated. I mean it, that's why I say it. So whenever you need that fix, call me, and I rush like a blitz. I just wanna kiss you on the lips.
I need your love. Got me going crazy. Won't you save me? Show me your love. 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 Your love.
right, we're back, and we're with Borbay, talking about Matisse, talking about Picasso, talking about him, talking about everything, and talking about creativity. So we left off with Picasso and your journey never ending, and I have to agree with you on that.
Yeah, it's this circle of life and creativity, and I think what kept me moving so much in all of my strange careers until I became an artist was I never felt at home with what I was doing. I mean, every job that I've had, I found something that I loved about it. I mean, I love to interact with people. So when I was recruiting, I was calling people all day and meeting them and putting them together and getting people jobs. So there was a lot to feel rewarded about there. And, you know, I loved working on developing skyscrapers, and, you know, it was amazing building websites with some of the best clients around, but I never felt that deep personal exploration and satisfaction. And now that I have that, it's something that I not only never want to let go, but I want to delve into further. And I want to feel that cycle of excitement on a new painting, and then that feeling of almost nausea and loss in the middle of it when you feel like you might lose it, and then the triumph when you know you found your way back, and then just putting it out in the world.
And it's not an easy process, and it's good that you document this, and you have, I guess, a video diary of what you're doing, you know, because that's something that's something your daughter, you're a family man, you have a daughter, so
yeah.
That's something that your daughter will see, and when she gets older and say, "Wow, you did that, Daddy? You may be you may be cool."
Well, yeah, of course. I know there's a point of diminishing returns when I'll become decidedly uncool, probably around her 13th year. But yeah, you know, I mean, my wife Erin and I, you know, we just had this like love at first sight connection, which was amazing. And you know, when we decided to get married, we knew we were going to have a family. And you know, of course, I was nervous because I was one of those guys who was never going to get married, and if I did, it would be at 40, and I'd have a kid when I'm 45. And I had this predetermined plan, which turned out to be completely ridiculous for me. And, you know, now that I look at her, I mean, every day I'm looking at the greatest creation that I could ever make. And it's a collaboration with this woman that I love. So, you know, she's amazing. And in fact, I worked her into all my painting process videos, and just looking back in the little clips that she's in for like 2 seconds from when she was just born to now, to see her grow, it's a shocking reminder of how much time is passing, and realizing that I'm getting older, and now I'm getting gray hairs, and I'm evolving and she's evolving.
But that's what life's about. It's about growth. It's about, you know, time goes on. Time is not going to wait for anyone. But at the end of the day, you know, the way you're doing the video diaries of your work is also showing your growth as an artist, which is pretty cool. You know, and
it is.
Go ahead.
It's funny to like record yourself, and I often look back and with a little bit of regret, because I'll do stupid things like I'll have my T-shirt tucked into my underwear, and I'm like, oh God, I hope no one really does that.
Yeah, but you know something? You know, a lot of people do stupid things on when recording. You know, just turn on the TV. You have something called reality television.
Been there and done that.
Yeah, so you know how that is. So look, the world's a stage, and the world is always watching. So, you know, if you come genuine, no one can ever fault you for it. You know, you're not trying to be phony.
Right.
This is you. This is the way it is. Your shirt's tucked in your underwear. Okay, well, whoop-de-doo. That's something for someone to actually, you know, laugh about later, and you'll laugh about it too. You know?
Absolutely.
But now, you know what I want to go into? I want to go into what you're currently doing, because, you know, you've been written up. You've been written up. Yeah, after you did the deal with Greenberg and the Michael Jackson book, the second book that he wrote, you got a lot of praise for your work.
I did.
Okay, and I mean, you got museum praise.
It's the whole Michael Jackson project has been just an unbelievable whirlwind for me. I mean, you know, first and foremost, getting to put the face to someone's work that I admire, and I love Zach's writing, and I love his book, and the intensity of his research and how much he pours into his work is incredible. So to put a cover on it, and you know, just to have him say, judge a book by my cover, because I love my cover, makes me so happy. And then to get some critical acclaim for it is amazing. And, you feel extra nervous because, you want it to be perfect for him and perfect for sales and perfect for Simon & Schuster. So, that's all gravy. Just to have people acknowledge it as a fine piece of work is amazing.
Just your work. And if any listener out there, if they're not familiar with Borbay's work, you have to go to Borbay.com. You have to check it out because the things that you do are so different that I really don't think anyone out there was getting any acclaim for doing anything like that.
That's very high praise and very much appreciated. I'm gonna continue to create and try to push myself and knock myself right out of my comfort zone. And I try to do multiple lines of work at all times, like live event painting where I have 45 minutes of creative painting and painting at hip hop shows and like burlesque shows and setting up and painting on the street and painting in the studio. And I'm trying to constantly evolve and learn and just explore what's out there because I know that where I'm at now is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, and you're right there at the beginning stages, even though you got the praise, even though you were, written up in the Wall Street Journal, and your work is in the Guggenheim Museum, right?
No. I aspire for it to be there, but I'm doing a series of Guggenheim, and so my bold claim is that I'm doing a Guggenheim every summer, every year for 20 years on the same size canvas from the same street corner. I'm actually about to start year number 6, and I don't have, of course, their praise at this moment, but my anticipation is to have all new Guggenheim showing in the Guggenheim, as a long-term goal.
Okay, so let me say this. Guggenheim, okay, you have to see the work. You have to see the work, because
listen to the man.
Yeah, you got to see the work and you got to get it in there. Because I think that once you have work that is that's in an environment where you have not hundreds, but you have millions of people over the course of a year running through and looking at, I think that something like that is a game changer.
Oh, that's even beyond a game changer. I mean, that's a career maker. Mm-hmm. To get essentially the co-credentials of a museum like the Guggenheim. And I think the hardest part about the whole journey for me is that when I wanted to become an artist, I wanted to be self-represented because when you go and get involved with a gallery, the process can be quite slow. They take 50% of sales, and you don't really have a lot of control. And being self-represented is more work, but I love it. It's authentic for me as a business person, as an artist. Mm-hmm. And what it does, it creates an additional layer of challenge because the gallery is essentially another brand that stamps of approval. You take a soap brand and you put it in Walmart. People are like, oh, okay, that's like a popular brand. It's in Walmart, so I can buy it. It's the same with art. It's just on a different level. Oh, okay, so this is this big artist who's represented by this major gallery, so I know that there's an extra layer of security there. And then, of course, these galleries are feeding into the museums, which feed into the auction houses, so there's this big cycle. And essentially, I'm trying to go from the bottom rung to the top rung without a lot of help in the middle. Mm-hmm. But I'm enjoying it, and it's just an extra challenge.
I think your work needs to be in the hands of some notable people, and that would be a good start.
Absolutely.
So now let me ask you this: how do you pick your topics? Because again, your topics are all over the place. What do you wake up one day and say, okay, well, I feel like I'm gonna paint about baseball, about hip hop artists, about this, about that. How do you pick your subject matter?
Amazing question. It's a lot of, I think about ideas and then I try to forget them. I don't write them down. I want to forget them. And any idea that keeps rising to the top and rising to the top, I think that's an idea that I have to explore. And then when I create these series, I try to create thematically because it's something that works for me. I love to be involved with a series. It's a commitment over a period of time, but it's also something that people can wrap their head around. It's, if I do a Lil Wayne portrait and then I decide to do a portrait of Brad Pitt, it's like, okay, so you're painting famous people. I get it. But if I do 7 hip hop artists, and then I do 7 kick-ass actors, and then if I do, 7 anti-heroes, it's something that is tangible, and it's become something that it's like a Picasso blue period. It's like, okay, well, that was from that series in that period of time. So when it comes to the speculative series that I create, it's about inspiration, people that I admire, and inspiration characters they develop and personas that they've developed. And then in terms of the locations, I get inspired by places, and I like to be out there. And, when I was out in Los Angeles, I painted from the Perch rooftop, and that was strictly because the owner of Perch was mad cool. I called in, and he said, sure, set up your easel. And it's a breathtaking view, and I got to spend 2 nights on an amazing rooftop painting.
Wow. Wow, that's great. That's great. I like the fact that people are so open, when it comes to creative situations. When you have people that are open for that, that opens up your options a little bit with, if something hits you at that moment.
100%. I mean, and not everybody is. There's a lot of people, and I can completely understand the consternation of the thought that, okay, so this artist that is calling me from New York who's going to be in Los Angeles wants to come and paint. I could be some sort of messy disaster who goes up there and gets drunk and spills paint everywhere. And, it takes a little bit of faith to assess someone over a call and talk to them for 5 minutes and say, here's the keys to the castle. But, I feel that, if you just work hard enough to make that connection, don't make people uncomfortable, and if you find someone who's like-minded and you go and you work hard and you treat them with respect and space, and then word gets around that you're an all right guy, and they can cross-reference and check out who you are, and then you're pretty much going to get a green light.
Well, and with your reputation getting around like that, it's definitely going to open up a lot of doors. Because, again, the work that you do, you're not just painting celebrities. You're doing a lot more than that. And I'm sure that you have a lot of work that a lot of people haven't even seen yet.
Yes, absolutely. There's stuff that I've done in the past that, it gets buried because I create all the time. And I have some just amazing work from earlier years. Actually, I hate to even call my work amazing. That's really pretentious. But I have some work that I like quite a bit that's just kind of tucked away, and it's something that maybe will come up in the future and someone will connect with. But the whole nexus of this oversharing with my work is that if you think about what art historians do and what you do when you're researching an artist for a paper in college, is you're trying to create this chronology of the work and the periods and the time. And I just decided, okay, I'm starting out, so let me just list everything in order and show the entire process, and then it's all there. So someone decides that they'd like to write about it, it makes it easy for them, which is obviously very good for me.
And it's definitely good. And then when someone, because when you make this work, it's just you have one of a kind, right?
Yes and no. I'm very fortunate right now, in particular, that, I have a lot of work stacked up. So there's a lot of work that I'm working on right now for myself, my anti-hero series. And I have like 3 commissions lined up. So what I'll do is, each painting goes through a different phase. So, when I'm in just selecting the source image and preparing the source image in collage material, I'll do that in tandem with a painting that's 50% in works. And then if I'm working on a location painting with studio painting, when the weather's good, I'll be painting outside. And then when the weather's bad, I'll be back inside working on the studio piece. So right now, it's more of like 2 or 3 paintings going at once. But once I get involved to a certain level with a painting, I have to abandon everything temporarily and see it through, because I get so obsessed with a piece at a certain turning point that I have to see it to finish.
But what I was saying is that when you create these pieces, when you create one, like and whatever you do, one piece, that is just one piece. That piece is not reproduced. You just have that one piece.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and
that's what I was leading to, because now you're coming out with unique pieces, like you did the hip hop series. That's one piece, and the reason I bring that up is because as things start to progress, is like the Warhol paintings. You have one. So, as things progress, that one becomes valuable. So what I'm letting our listeners know is that your work can become very valuable.
Yeah.
You know, it's
100%.
it's possible because and I know that you're just scratching the surface here, and I know your work is going to be, you know, I mean, I know people know about it all over the world, but I mean, it's going to be at a higher level on an international scale, and it's going to be just a matter of time before all that happens.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to what the future brings.
Yeah, well, it's a fun journey though, and you know, you're fortunate because you have, you know, someone good by your side, someone that's supportive, someone that's there for you through the dark times and all the fantastic times. And you know, now you have your daughter that will, you know, you look at her, you know, you have to persevere, you know, you have to keep pushing, and that helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that helps you with your creative part of it, you know, because now you're like, okay, I have to create. You love what you do, so it's not even work. You're just doing what you love to do. How lucky are you?
Yes. I mean, I'm, you know, and that's one of the things, and you touched on this before, and it's so true that I have a lot of friends that are super talented and really smart and really passionate, and, you know, they're in a job and maybe they're feeling in a dead end, but they wouldn't even know what they want to do if they were to leave and try to, you know, just develop something or create something. And, you know, that's where I've been very, very fortunate because, I mean, it's one thing to take the leap and start your own company or do something that you're passionate about, but knowing what that is a whole other thing. Mm-hmm. And I was just fortunate that I knew from a young age that I loved art. And, you know, when I wake up every morning, it's like a Christmas morning. I can't wait to get to work and solve the problem I'm working on or put the finishing touches on a painting or start a whole new painting.
Well, you know, again, you're fortunate that you have that. A lot of people don't have that. And I believe that if you have something inside of you, you have to try to follow through. You know, I mean, it's good to have dreams, but dreams without action, you know, they just become fantasy. You know, and okay, if you want to live in Disneyland, that's fine. But if you do have a dream, and I say this to any listener out there, you have a dream, you have to put some effort into it to go reach it. It's not going to come to you. It's not going to come to you. I mean, unless you're the luckiest person on the planet, it's just not going to come to you. You know, so
right.
Now, why don't you tell us what you have going on now? You know, your current projects and what's going to be going on, when your next show is going to be, and all that stuff.
Well, I'm right now. I'm working on an anti-hero series. It's a portrait series. It's my third one. And I'm just kind of drilling into the notion of all these people and characters that have become beloved figures who do all these kind of crazy things. I mean, you know, I've painted Tony Montana, who's, you know, everybody's favorite drug kingpin, Tony Soprano, Dexter Morgan, Walter White. I have, John Hamm as his Madman character on my easel right now, and that's almost finished up. And, you know, it's a series that I'm just so fascinated about because, you know, you're watching a show like Dexter and you're rooting for a serial killer to not get caught. I don't know how these TV series and the second golden age of television managed to capture that psyche, but it's incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that series, and, you know, I don't know when I'm going to show it or even if I'm going to show it because, I mean, I have the fortunate situation where I'm selling a bunch of them as I'm creating them, and they're going to different countries. So to get them all back for a show is kind of difficult, and I'm not at that financial point where it's like, oh, okay, you know, I'm selling them for like $200,000-300,000, so to spend, you know, $10,000 to get them, you know, brought back into the States for a show is not a big deal. Mm-hmm. So that kind of is. So I don't know if I'm going to show them, but at very least I have a solo show every year. There'll be another one in January in New York. And what we'll be showing will just depend on what I have around. Outside of that, I'm just kind of working on my Guggenheim series, which is, like I said, the 6th installment is coming up with that. And then I'm just keeping my eyes and ears open and looking for cool things. I mean, I might have a commission lined up in Los Angeles for a new space opening up. Nice. So I'm exploring that. I have a presentation coming up in the fall where I'm heading up to Montreal and Toronto, and I'm meeting with this kind of peer investment group and sort of just discussing what I do, my business model, and, you know, breaking down the art game from an independent perspective. And I'm very excited about that because, you know, meeting people who are excited about things that are a little different and where there's opportunity, I mean, that's great people for me to meet. And, you know, outside of that, I'm just working on raising my daughter and having a great time.
Well, I have a strange feeling that there's going to be you're going to be doing seminars and you're going to be writing a book, and that's going to help independent artists. I have a feeling that's going to happen, and
You sound like my wife.
yeah, I see that happening. I see that happening. Well, you better listen to her because she knows what she's talking about.
Hey, absolutely she does.
You got to listen. Well, she's the boss. Remember that. But yeah, and the thing is, you mentioned with your paintings going overseas, you know, and these are one of a kind. So when you make that and it goes overseas, that's it.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, I'm very careful with my contracts, and you know, especially with intellectual property, having, you know, of course, seen the master at work, Mr. Trump, and you've seen a lot of things that happen. So, you know, I retain the right to show all my paintings that I sell, and I retain the intellectual property to the image itself. So, you know, I'm essentially building a catalog. So what I'm creating and what I'm making financially are not indicative right now of where I'm going to be in the long run, because it's sort of like I'm building a wide foundation. And, you know, where that ends up going, it's hard to say. But, you know, when a painting goes overseas, I mean, it's amazing. You know, I just can't believe that there are people in Japan and people in, you know, Ireland and all over the world that have my work on their wall. It's really trippy. It's very cool.
Yeah, but that's what it's all about, because you're sharing it with the world. And for somebody to have your work on their wall, they're sharing with other people. They enjoy it every day. And they know.
Yeah.
And they bought that because they know where you're going. So they're making an investment. Make no mistake about that. They're making an investment in you.
You know, look, it is 100% a business. And, you know, I have people where they'll be like, oh, listen, man, I'm never selling this. This is going to be like in the family forever. And I say, look, you know, if that's the case, that's amazing. And I'm flattered. But, you know, if something you bought a couple years ago for $5,000 in 15 years is worth $500,000 and you guys need to liquidate and get some money, that's totally cool. I respect and appreciate that. I mean, that's just business.
Yeah. And that's how the art market happens, and that's how things work. Honestly, if that didn't work out, Christie's and Sotheby's would be very unhappy.
Well, they create something kind of amazing, and you know, there's a wave of artists who are kind of in my wheelhouse. You know, most of my work right now is selling between, for smaller works, you know, like 5,000 up to about 10, and then for bigger work, you know, quite a bit more. But that's my wheelhouse. And a lot of artists who were there 2 years ago are literally going for $500,000 at auction. So, you know, I mean, you can become quote unquote the financial art darling superstar overnight. And, you know, I want to get there, and I want to get there on my own terms, and I want to do it in a way that my market is sustainable. You know, I don't want to be an overnight success and make a ton of money and then have my market crash. I want to control it as much as I can. And, you know, for me, making a really good connection personally and directly with my collectors, you know, we're sort of like in this club together, and, you know, I'm driving the boat and they're filling it with fuel and we're going down the river, and, you know, who knows where it's going to take us.
Well, I think that you're doing this very smart, because now you're throwing, you know, you're looking at this as also as a business, where a lot of people that are creative, they don't have the business sense. They can create, but they don't know how to, you know, handle the business end. Thus, they don't make it to where they should be. You know, you're just fortunate that you have the creative, but you also have the business sense, so you can actually make it happen on your terms. And you're right, a lot of artists do. They all of a sudden they become ultra famous, and then everything crashes. The same thing happens with music, everything else, flash in a pan type of thing. You know, but if you control it, you make it into a business. You have sustainability that can go not over years, can go over decades.
Yes. And you see that exactly. You see that with athletes. You see that with musicians. I mean, you know, you get to a point where you look at a guy like Diddy and you're like, almost forget that, you know, he's an entertainer and a performer, because look at the diversity in his business portfolio and what he's developed. And, you know, it's been for him, you know, money comes in, it's reinvested, and then it comes out and he's got 6 new enterprises, and, you know, 2 of them fail, 4 of them are good, 1 of them become amazing. You know, and you look at that, you look at guys like Jay-Z, amazing. And, you know, even the Michael Jackson book. I mean, he set the template for what was possible. I mean, he had a shoe deal before Michael Jordan. And, you know, I mean, it's incredible. And that's, you know, I mean, those are people that I admire and business models I admire. And, you know, I want to sustain my family, but ultimately I want to create. And I realize that the only way to continue to create is to make enough money to allocate the time to create. So it's all about business. And without the business, so many unbelievably talented artists never see the sunshine as they should.
And I'm going to add on to that list, and I have to add on to that list that you just laid on us. Okay, you know, if one person that people could look at in the world of music of hip hop, look at Dr. Dre. Okay, he went from one end to from creating the music himself to being the producer. You know, launching like Eminem, 50 Cent, and everything else, and making all this stuff possible behind the scenes, and still a businessman investing in projects and stuff like that. You win some, you lose some, and he just became the rap world's first billionaire. Okay.
Yes, he did.
And that's trumping, and I have to throw the Trump in there. That's trumping Jay-Z.
Well, I mean, look, you know, the Beats by Dre deal was obviously amazing. And, you know, he hooked up with the right guy in Jimmy, and they built that in a very smart way. And I think, you know, that acquisition was a lot about the technology behind the headphones, not even the headphones themselves, but the music platform that they're developing.
Yep. And
it's just good, smart business. And in fact, if anyone's going to know exactly who's on top of the Cash Kings list, it's going to be Zach O'Malley Greenberg next year, because I know Diddy was at the top of the Cash Kings for Forbes last year, and obviously Dre is going to put a really good foot forward, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing the actual numbers. Yeah,
and I think that it's going to be very interesting, you know, but also things like that. If you look at someone like that, a creative person, because he is a creative person, okay, that is also a business person. So he's a creative person, a businessman, and he just made a deal that to date is Apple's by far largest acquisition. Believe it or not.
That's crazy.
That is the Apple's only other acquisition that was large. I think it was what was it? I forget how many millions of dollars it was, but that's when they brought back Steve Jobs, and that's when they bought his company, and that's how they got him back. But other than that, this is their largest acquisition, because Apple, they don't buy, they create. But they don't buy it, and you look at the unbelievably crazy, and I would go as far to call them insane acquisitions that are happening in the rapidly developing tech space. I mean, look at the stuff that Facebook's bought and the numbers. I mean. And Google, I mean, these are staggering billions of dollars. I mean, it's amazing. But that goes to show you, I mean, Apple is they're an innovator, they're a creator. So for them to go and spend that kind of money to acquire a company, I mean, they see something probably a lot of us to the naked eye don't even see the potential of. And I'm sure they're going to blow it out of the water. And Dre's going to be a very happy man with a couple extra homes. Yeah, well, I think he just sold his home, actually, or is selling his home in Hollywood Hills. You know, so it's gonna. I mean, I'm happy that stuff like that is happening, because it does kind of spark something, you know, for the youth to say, you know what, he came from the hood, he can do it, I can do something, okay, and it also gives hope to creative people to say, hey, you know what, this is the I can do type of thing, like Nike says, just do it, you know, this is like I can do it too. All right, and I think that's fantastic. When you get to where you want to be, you're going to be inspiring people along just from your actions. You're going to inspire people, and I think that's fantastic. I mean, hopefully, you know, I mean, there's no hope involved here. You're going to inspire people, because I'm telling you, and I say it with people I bring on my show, because I speak the truth. You know, if I didn't think it, I wouldn't say it. You know, your work is fantastic. I see a lot of big things happening with you and your work for the long haul. Okay, so with that said, you will inspire people because they're going to see the journey, and you have the video diaries, and they're going to see this stuff.
Yeah.
This is stuff they're going to play on PBS.
That's fantastic. Yeah, hopefully the underwear ones as well.
Yeah, they'll do that. That'll probably be on the Comedy Channel. I don't know. They may grab that footage.
With my physique these days, it definitely will.
Ha! Too funny. All right, Borbay, why don't you let all the listeners know how to find out more about you, how to follow your career, because I do believe that everyone, that if you're an art lover, if you love creativeness, and especially if you love music and things of that nature, you just got to see the series that Borbay has, so you got to follow him. So so why don't you lay it on them, how to find out more about you and everything.
Fantastic. Yeah, my hub online is Borbay.com. It's just BORBAY.com, and that's where everything starts. And then you can find me pretty much across the internet, everywhere Borbay. So Facebook.com/Borbay. I'm Borbay on Twitter, Borbay on Instagram, and that's about it. And, I love being in touch. So if you send me an email through my site or you get in contact with me on social media, I will do my absolute best to get back to you, and eventually will definitely get back to you. So, I love to meet new people, and I love to share my work, and life is good. So I hope to meet you and share what I'm doing with you.
There you go. I do urge all listeners out there to go find out more about Borbay. Go to Borbay.com because, again, the work, the journey, the story, the everything is very interesting. And you're going to thank me later on because you're going to see the growth that Borbay is going to have. And in the coming years, I can say, I told you so, and I'm going to be happy to do that. Borbay, thank you so much, my friend. And we're going to have you on again in the future, because we need to have update, because I know your career is going to continue to spiral in a positive way. Okay, and you're going to continue to progress. So I definitely want to have you on again.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor. You have an amazing way about you with your interviews. I mean, I listened to a bunch before we got to connect, and you have a great back and forth, and it's been an absolute pleasure, and I really sincerely thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Borbay. And again, listeners, check out Borbay.com. You won't be disappointed.
Initiating shutdown sequence.
You're listening to UCW Radio. In your face.
What is your major malfunction?
So let it be written. So let it be done.
Ladies and gentlemen, my mother thanks you, my father thanks you, my sister thanks you, and I thank you.